It probably took me a lot longer than it should have, but I finally watched the season 15 finale of Supernatural. And subsequently, I finished the entire series of Supernatural as season 15 was its final season. And I could not be more disappointed with how this show ended. And you want to talk about a huge misfire. You want to talk about showrunners who letting the fan base down. This is laughable. This is inexcusable for how horrible this whole thing wrapped up. First, let's talk about Chuck. Chuck is clearly established as God. You need a big, huge bad for the final season, and we've already done Lucifer. We've already done each and every version of a demon or an angel or whoever you want to turn evil. So we made God himself the villain. I found it interesting that he was pseudo in control of Sam and Dean's entire lives and sort of dictated every situation that they've been a part of. Some of that can almost be said to be the reason why certain things happened in their lives, like them getting resurrected several times, or they were kept around longer for certain purposes. But ultimately, it is hard to accept, right? It's hard to accept that everything that we've sat through for 15 years has all been planned out, has all been in a book by God. And so none of these characters' decisions, their choices, their actions, their tragedies, nothing has ever been natural. So Chuck, his whole plan is because he's fed up by Sam and Dean, because he's angry with the way that things have gone down, with the ways that they act and have done things against him, he decides, F it, let's just kill everybody and let's just reset everything. He's able to convince his sister Amara, aka the Darkness, which when they brought her back, I actually thought this would be way more interesting. That they obviously don't see eye to eye. She obviously does not like her brother. And she even seemed like she was willing to help Sam and Dean to go against him. And I wanted to see what that would be like. I wanted to see that showdown. But after just a brief conversation, Chuck is able to convince her to just go along with him. And then he absorbs her so that he gets more powerful. How lame. So now that Chuck is more powerful, he's able to destroy other worlds, which was always weird. They never really took advantage of it. Sure, they had the occasional, hey, it's Charlie from the other universe who came over, and that was weird. Oh, hey, Bobby from the other universe, he comes back over here. Even though they don't really interact with him, they don't talk to him a whole lot. It's just, they was just there, just to be there. Jack was a character that when he was first introduced, I didn't care for him. I couldn't tell if it was the actor or if I couldn't tell if it was the show trying so damn hard to make him a part of the group, to make him a part of the team, to make him feel just as important as everyone else, and I did not feel it. But bringing him back here, I felt bad for Jack. I couldn't believe that they actually got me to feel for him, especially in the scene where Jack clearly overhears Dean tell Sam that Jack is not one of us. He's not you. He's not Castiel. He's not us. And obviously Jack heard it. He did not say anything really, though. He just kind of accepted it the way that it was. And boy, I felt bad for this dude. I felt like maybe it was me. Yeah, you're a dick for not accepting this guy. Castiel has a moment where he sacrifices himself to save Dean. They're being chased by one of the death dealers or the Grim Reaper or whatever the fuck. And Castiel sort of summons the emptiness or the venom alien black goo. That's at least what it looked like. And he uses it to absorb her, the Grim Reaper, and himself, therefore seemingly dying to save Dean's life. And this was a sad moment, a tragic moment, especially because Castiel has been there for over 10 years at this point. He is a mainstay, he is a main character. This wasn't even the finale. This was, what, the third to last episode before the finale? Castiel's not a character that you kill off that early on before the final showdown. And for some reason, they brought back the actress that plays Meg to not play Meg. She played somebody else who was running the empty, and she just looks like Meg. They don't really explain it. Every character that comes into contact with her says, Meg? And she says, no, Meg's still dead. I'm just using her image or her body or her... What? Why not just have her be Meg? What other purpose does it serve to bring this actress back if she's not going to be playing Meg? Chuck also apparently revived Lucifer and wanted Lucifer to go find the book that could defeat him. So Lucifer does this, but Lucifer is only here for like, what, one scene? He's here, he's able to open the book, he's able to sort of figure out what it says, and then he gets killed by Michael. So what was the point? I like this actor that plays Lucifer, but man, that was unnecessary. Speaking of Michael, Michael is also here again, and because he saw that Chuck picked Lucifer as a servant, Michael gets jealous and goes to Chuck and tries to be with him again. But Chuck is pissed that he helped the Winchesters, and so Chuck just disintegrates Michael. So what was the point of that? These characters who at one time felt big, at one time felt powerful, at one time felt like they were the end-all be-all, they just show up for one episode. They showed this whole chain of events to show how Jack was able to get powerful enough to defeat Chuck. We saw all these moments that had to be luck, right? So many scenes where Jack just so happened to be there when Michael got injured and absorbed his powers. Jack also happened to be there when Lucifer was killed and was able to absorb his powers. And so that made Jack strong enough in order to depower Chuck. And granted, the Winchesters also had to know that Chuck wouldn't have snapped his fingers like he usually does and take out the Winchesters just like he had been doing to everyone else. In fact, there's a moment where he almost Thanos the entire world. Because at first I thought maybe it was just people that were close to the Winchesters, people like Bobby and Charlie and Donna and all these characters that we knew and loved. But we come to find out it was the entire world. There's no other living soul left. But Jack was able to depower Chuck. And when it came time for Sam and Dean to kill Chuck, when it came time for Sam and Dean to say, hey, all of those decades of you messing with us, of you toying with us, of you controlling our lives, we're going to take our lives back and we're going to kill you. And I know that the show probably wants to portray them as good guys and doesn't want to be like, hey, they're cold blood killers or they're going to kill a character that we've known for so long. But I don't know. I kind of think God deserved it. I kind of think Chuck deserved to get iced here. I know Sam said that, hey, you'll live a normal life, you'll live as a human and not be treated any special, and you'll just get sick and get old and die like everyone else. I get the point, but it wasn't satisfying enough. Jack becomes the new god, so good for him, and then we get to the final episode. So after all of this buildup, after all of this craziness with these superpowered characters, Sam and Dean are just living their lives and they finally get to do whatever they want without being controlled by Chuck. And then they get a call. They get a call about a vampire's nest. They go to deal with it. And mind you, I could argue the fact that it was only the two of them that went by themselves to deal with the vampires, but how many episodes, how many seasons, how many years have we seen Sam and Dean go up against vampires like this and deal with it easily? But no, this one particular group, they have to fight off some of the vampires who easily get their heads chopped off, as they do. And then one of the vampires, someone who was leading this nest, I guess was supposed to be a character from the earlier seasons or season one. When they flash back to her, I recognize her and I remember her. I remember the episode that she was a part of, but why did it take 15 years in order for her to ever pop up again? Why did the show feel the need to bring her back of all people? There's actually a couple other loose end characters that could have been brought back over a character like her. Oh wow, what a big twist. And then they cut her head off. So they even brought this actress back after all that time just to immediately kill her. And then Dean gets pushed up against a wall by the bigger vampire. He gets impaled by a nail. And after Sam kills that vampire, Dean can't move. And Dean is dying. Wow. Wow. Really? Really? 15 years of watching Sam and Dean go up against some of the scariest creatures, the most dangerous monsters, ghosts, demons. And I'm not saying vampires are no big deal and not a threat, but we've seen them deal with vampires. We've seen them kill vampires fairly easily. There's no reason why this should be the way Dean goes out. Even if you wanted to kill Dean off, which I would argue, I did not want to watch a show for 15 seasons and then just to watch them die eventually. But fine, if you wanted this to be the end of the character, if you wanted Dean to have this heroic death, then give him a heroic death. Give him a death that was sacrificial, that was like, hey, I'm going to do this and it's going to save Sam, or I'm going to do this and it's going to save the world. I mean, we just had the previous episode where they're going up against God, but you wait till the next episode where it's just a random group of faceless people wearing masks, vampires, and it's not even like they killed him. He just got pushed up against a nail. Literally the weakest and lamest way to kill off Dean. This is Dean Winchester, arguably the coolest character on the show, arguably the most badass character on the show. Jensen Ackles deserved better. Dean Winchester deserved better. And yes, the scene of the two of them crying and Dean telling Sam that it's okay, he can go on, he can be okay on his own, and Sam telling him that he can leave. All of it on paper works, right? And the actors did sell it as far as being this huge emotional moment, but it didn't feel earned. It rang very hollow. It did not feel believable. It almost felt like one of the characters would wake up and this would all be some dumb, lame way. And they would say to each other, wow, imagine if the show really ended like this. It didn't feel real. I was watching this and thinking out loud, wow, we're really doing this. Like, this is actually something that the writers got together, planned out, and said this would be satisfying. This would be the perfect way to end the show. This would keep the fans happy who have stuck with this goddamn show way longer than it should have still been on. We still only kept watching the show for as long as we did because we loved the characters and because we liked the actors and their chemistry, their dynamic. It wasn't because of the show and the storylines getting better. Because I would argue that all of that stuff, the writing, it regressed tremendously. The show hasn't really been at its peak since season 5. But we kept watching because we loved the characters. We kept watching because we loved the actors. And then Sam just goes on to live his life. We get like a montage of Sam burning Dean's body, which I find it hard to believe that after all the time Sam and Dean separately have died, and the other brother had always found other ways to bring them back. And I know Dean said, "Don't bring me back," but I don't buy it. I don't buy that even Dean would have accepted this as the way that he should go out. And Sam just lives his life, gets older, wearing the worst wig I've ever seen in the history of TV. Wow. Jared Padalecki, you should have said, no, I'd rather dye my hair gray than wear some horrible shit like this. And then more time passes. We see that apparently Sam fell in love with and married a woman that you don't see because she's far, far in the background. So I guess it doesn't matter who the hell Sam ended up with. Would it have really have hurt for us to have seen that maybe Sam ended up with the deaf girl? Well, I don't know. Maybe they could have found a way to bring Jess back and he could have lived a happy life with Jess. There had to be another way to go about showing how Sam lived his life. He had a son who I guess he also trained to be a hunter. So creatures are still out there. When they try to present this as a happy ending, monsters are still out there. Creatures are still out there. People are still going to be killed for the rest of time. It's not like Sam and Dean were able to create a facility or some sort of agency where there are multiple people or a group of hunters who all work together, who they all take over that hideout that they all lived in. It's big enough that a bunch of hunters could have lived there. And it could be an operation, a base of operation of hundreds of hunters, really. And at least we would have known that the world was okay and in good hands. Sam dies eventually of old age, and then he gets reunited with Dean. So great. The ending of this show is that Sam and Dean both die and get reunited in heaven. Because that's how I wanted the show to wrap up. Oh, and I forgot to mention that while Dean was waiting for Sam to die, Dean was talking to Bobby in heaven, and Bobby explained to Dean that heaven is not basically the heaven that we got explained to us way early on in like season 5, I think, where they said that you live out your best memories or whatever, and heaven's specific to yourself, which I thought made a lot of sense. I thought sounded like a decent enough type of idea. But no, now I guess Jack turned heaven into a place where everyone can be at. Everyone. And Rufus has a place all the way down over there. And your mom and dad, we're not going to see them, but they have a place all the way on the other side. It would have been nice to see some of these characters. I mean, my God. I know CW is notoriously cheap, and I know that they probably didn't want to cough up the money, but there's no way the money would not have been worth to bring back all of these actors so that we can be reunited with these characters. This whole thing was a major disappointment. This might go down as one of the worst finales of all time. How did I not hear more of an uproar? Maybe because I stayed away from it. Maybe because I got into a period where I just wasn't keeping up with as many shows as I would have liked. And so, I don't know. Or maybe by this point, so many people had stopped watching Supernatural that nobody gave enough of a shit to complain as much as I am. But this is awful. This is terrible. My God. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below if you too saw the series finale of Supernatural. Were you just as disappointed as I am? Or did you stop watching the show so you couldn't give any less of a shit? I don't blame you. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!